I am so excited to bring you one of my all-time favorite professors and, of course, 60s and 70s rock demigod, I promise you. Dr. Lou McNally is joining us here on the show today. Thank you so much for being here, Professor.
Great to see you again, Samara. Great to see you.
You know, so basically, I met you at Embry-Riddle. You were my broadcast meteorology professor.
I was there for 11 years, yeah.
At Embry-Riddle,
yeah.
wow. So,
you were one of my best students, too.
oh, well, thank you. Are you just telling me that because I told you to come here on my podcast?
Yes.
All right, there we go. I see TV hasn't left.
There you go.
So, but before that, you know, you've had a really amazing career. You were in radio for over 40 years in Portland, Maine. Let's give us a little glimpse into what your life was like, and then we'll go back even further into your rock years.
Oh, my goodness. Well, the rock years have been there since high school, you know. I mean, we had the high school band around the corner, won the Battle of the Bands in 1969, I think it was. So that goes back quite a ways. But as far as my basic career, it was, of course, meteorology. And I've been doing that for, like I said, over 40 years now. Mm-hmm. And that included radio all over the Northeast and down to Pensacola, Mobile, down to Miami. And then television from Portland, Maine, to Des Moines, Iowa, to Buffalo, New York, to Providence, Rhode Island, to Boston, Massachusetts, and then back up to Portland, Maine. So that was a good career.
Yeah.
I never made the West Coast, but who cares?
You got quite, I mean, you went far west, you went to Iowa, so
you
that's
kind of
about
have to do
halfway.
that. You kind of have to do that in
Yes,
this
you
business,
do.
you know,
Yeah.
in order to advance in television. But yeah, those days are gone now. I still do radio.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love doing radio. Get up and I still do it live in the morning.
Wow.
For Maine Public Radio. So if you're ever up in that neck of the woods, tune in public radio in the morning. And I mean, my kids will say, "Did you have a bad night last night, Dad?" I mean, they can tell because I do it live. You know, no second chances on that, and no tape delay either. So it gets to be pretty interesting.
Right. So, you know, on radio, your name was Altitude Lou.
Yeah.
How did you come about that?
Well, that's a long story. I guess that's what we're here for.
We're here for all the juicy stories behind the music, and that's what we're getting to.
I had a meteorology degree, and after I got out, I had just missed a job in Portland, Maine. That's another story. But nevertheless, I found myself making lobster traps in Freeport, Maine, and they were the wire lobster traps that you had to crimp together. Mm-hmm. And I was ruining my calluses for my guitar by doing that. But while we were making those lobster traps, we always played one radio station, WBLM, in the morning. They had great disc jockeys, and they had, for some reason, they made fun of the weather all the time, and they had lousy forecasts. So I wrote them a letter one day, and I said, you know, I should be doing this for you. And they wrote me back within a week and said, yeah, okay, just come up with a name and you start on Monday.
No
So
kidding.
yeah, it was as simple as that. So I went to a friend's house in South Freeport. The guy's name was Pat Pettit. His dad's name was Pick Pettit. And we spent most of the next 2 days inside a tent putting Pettit bottom paint on Pick Pettit's boat.
Say that three times fast.
Yeah, man. And there was, of course, a lot of fine beverages and a lot of fumes. And I brought it up to the 5 or 6 guys who were there and said, you know, we got to come up with a name for me by Monday morning because that's when I go on the air. Mm-hmm. And so we stumbled around all over the place, and it ended
Literally
up
and figuratively.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was either going to be Altitude Lou or the Cloud Prince.
Oh.
And so I picked Altitude Lou, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, yeah, I'm kind of glad you did too.
Because it stuck.
Yeah.
So that was fun. But that's actually how I got started, with just that one radio station. And then their owners bought another radio station in New Hampshire, a big country station. I got onto that. Then they bought stations around the country, and then I got other stations involved. At one point, I had 66 radio stations and 5 full-time employees. which was a blast. I got to give people their birthdays off because I was the boss.
Nice. Nice.
That was a blast. And of course, as everything goes, I mean, there were big changes in broadcasting. There were mergers and there were absorptions and deregulation and all that. So that kind of service kind of went down the tubes. There's still some work out there for a private meteorologist with cities and towns, with airports, airlines, shipping companies, things like that. But that's all kind of drifted away.
Well, you know, you had a really great career at Embry-Riddle as well as my professor, and then you retired, and now you, right?
I left.
You left. Okay, you left. You left. He's like, no, I left.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not retired yet.
Not retired.
No, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. You know? I still think I want to drive a train. Seriously. That's the way to keep young, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, what are you doing right now, though?
Well, right now I'm playing guitar mostly. Some down here in Florida and some up north in the summertime. I guess you call me a heat bird as opposed to a snowbird.
Yes.
Because I live here. But I get out when it gets too hot.
Heat bird. Gotcha. So you fly north for the summer.
I drive north.
Drive north.
Yeah, man. You know, I got to carry all the guitars and amps and things like that back and forth.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty much just doing that and, you know, looking at other possibilities here and there. I'm way too old to fill in on television, so don't even bother asking. But anyway, yeah, there's lots of things I'm trying to do. I'm writing crosswords. What? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute.
No, I wrote one and I sent it into the New York Times. And it took them almost 6 months to get back to me. And they said, you're close. Try again. And I said, okay. So I haven't done that yet, but I'm still doing that.
Well, that's an interesting tidbit.
Yeah, but basically, no, I'm just enjoying not having to do anything except get up and do radio in the morning.
Right.
You know, it's just fun.
And then your gigs that you do.
Yeah, that's kind of just, you know, bubbled up over the last couple of years. You know, it's tough. There's a lot of musicians that are making their living doing this down here, and they're playing 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 days a week, and that's their income. And I don't want to take that away from people, but there's plenty of spots that I'm on the sick list, and you know, somebody for some reason can't make it, they'll give me a call. Like yesterday, I got called in by Loggerheads up in Ormond by the Sea.
Yeah.
Somebody can't make it, can give them a, sure, I'll be right there.
Rock on.
Yeah, so that works, and that builds up. Get to play 3 or 4 times a month.
Yeah.
That's cool. Write a couple of songs, whatever.
Why not, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your early music career type that you had going on. I mean, you know, this is all you, because I know you've got stories. I mean, epic stories.
Like I said, they got the high school band, which won the Battle of the Bands at Concord Carlisle High School in Massachusetts, 1969. We were called the Cellophane Pickle. 1969. Now you gotta, okay. And but it was a tough battle. We had some good bands around there. And after that, let's see, I went to Cape Cod for a while, played in a band down there. That didn't work out. It was an Eagles tribute band, and they wanted it to be as exact as possible. And in the Eagles, the bass player, the old one and the new one, both sing the very high notes.
Yeah.
Not me.
No?
No.
I can't tell.
Well, I got a tenor, but not that high.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, so that didn't work out. I went up to Maine. When I moved to Maine, I joined a band in the Lakes region up there called Thunderstone. That was a blast. But
How fitting, too.
Oh yeah.
Meteorology.
Yeah, no, that's what
thunder.
the Indians called hail.
Oh,
They call them thunderstones.
There you go.
Anyway, but long before that, just after I got out of high school, before I went to college, I got completely enamored one afternoon listening to the rock opera Tommy by The Who. It took me. It just grabbed me. And I said, we've got to put this thing on stage. We got to do it. And I spent probably 18 months trying to put this together and running rehearsals with people at local high schools and things like that. It gets time to actually put it on stage. We had about a 30 or 40 person company at that point. And I called up Track Music in New York. Chris Stamp was the owner there. And I said, we'd like to put Tommy on stage. And he laughed. He said, you can't do that. I said, why not? He said, you can't do that. I said, okay, fine. Hung up on him. went to England, took up a collection around everybody in the company. We called ourselves the company back then, and got enough money to get onto Icelandic Airlines from Idlewild, before it was JFK, up to Iceland, to Glasgow, Scotland, and to London, 24 hours on a plane.
Wow.
Got off the plane, went down to Pete Townsend's office, which is up over a coffee roasters store. Big, huge sacks of beans, smell great.
I bet.
Knocked on my door. Who are you? I'm here to see Pete Townsend. What do you want? I'm trying to get the rights to do the rock opera. Okay. Just a minute.
Yeah.
And she went back, and within about 5 minutes, he came out and took one look at me, said, "Give me, let's go." Sat down at a table. I had the whole script with me. I had the stage design with me, the blocking, the lighting, everything. And I ran through the whole thing with him, explained why we're not going to use the Acid Queen in that particular version of the show. And he said, okay, wait a couple of minutes. He went back into his other room, and he came back with the rights to put Tommy on stage, to do the world premiere of the rock opera Tommy, which we did. We did. We started off with just a couple of local high schools, and we ended up going to a couple of local theater companies, and ended up with some colleges and some tours and things like that. Comes time to re-up the rights, Montreal Ballet bids $20,000. That was
all
it.
she wrote.
That was it. That's all she wrote.
Wow.
No, well, I'm glad it happened, because when Montreal Ballet's rights came up, MGM bid $1 million to do the movie. So, but I can say that we put the world premiere of Tommy on stage.
Wow.
And that was in 1970, which was a blast.
Yeah.
You know? Then it was off to college and all that other kind of stuff.
And I mean, this whole time you also play guitar, but what other
Oh,
instruments?
no, back then I was playing Hammond organ. Oh, goodness gracious.
Got
Oh,
you.
the
I had a Hammond organ when I was little.
Man. You know, we don't use them that much anymore because, you know,
Right.
back then we had guys called groupers who would help us load and unload things like Hammond organs and Leslie amplifiers in order to try to get to our groupies, right? we don't have either of them anymore. So I play a guitar. You
Gotcha.
know, it's a lot easier to lug around, that's for sure. But no, I was playing Hammond organ. We had a great band. We had 3 lead singers, kind of, you know, to make up for the fact that there was no chorus. You know, lead guitarist, rhythm guitarist, bass. Great drummer. Wow. Stole him from Pratt Institute in New York. He toured with us for 1.5 years, then went back, became an architect. Whatever. Those are fun days. And then in between that time, I was living in Boston. And after the rock opera crash, I was looking for another band. I ended up hooking up with a band called Swallow, which was really big on the ski circuit. But this was during the summer, so they were in rehearsal, basically. And we were running around the same circuit as other bands, Boston and Aerosmith, Jay Giles, people like that. And we had rehearsal space in the basement of what was the original Boston Tea Party. You know, some people may remember that, some people may not, but it was in Roxbury, Massachusetts, and it was the lower level of an old Masonic temple, so it had big rooms, function rooms, which they were renting out to bands. And there was one Sunday afternoon, we were sitting there rehearsing, and I hear a rap on the door, bam, 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 bam. We need a band, we need a band. Well, look, guys, we're just doing rhythm section today. We don't have the lead. We don't have the bass player. You know, try across the hall. Aerosmith is over there. You know, bam, 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 bam. Nothing. Of course, this is like on a Sunday afternoon. You think those guys would be awake? Not a chance. And so they went down to the end of the hall where Jay Giles was rehearsing, and they were rehearsing a full band. And we need a band. Okay, where do we go? It was some frat at MIT that was holding a big party on the quad. That's when they got their record contract. So, you know,
So
close, so many times, you know. And then to make matters worse, the bass player from our band decided he was going to leave, and he had some pretty good chops and some good experience. He was with one of the original Boston beat bands, and those are it's the Ultimate Spinach and the Vanilla Fudge and Beacon Street Union and people like that. Well, he played with a band called Barry and the Remains, and they had, 2 or 3 regional hits. And he just split. I didn't know what the heck happened to him. I just found out just a couple of years ago, he split to run Emmylou Harris's hot band.
Really?
You'd think he could have asked me to come along and play Hammond organ. Come on now.
I mean, that would have been,
Yeah, that would have been very cool.
Yeah.
I keep thinking I should have gone to Nashville. I think about that probably 3 times a day.
Should have gone to Nashville.
Yeah.
Should be playing up Bluebird
Yeah,
Cafe.
exactly. Or just studio musician. That would be fine.
Right.
Anybody out there, studio musician would be just perfectly fine. Although I do have a box I need to check on my bucket list, and that's to be discovered and play with a country band on tour for 6 months.
Well, you never know.
Somebody's out there. I
There's
know.
somebody out there listening, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yep.
So I will never forget, and I know this is, this is one of my best memories of you. We had gone to, it was summer 2012. I had just finished up my internship here at Channel 6, actually.
Right. Yep.
And, I was a little bit older than your traditional students, but
So was I. I knew a lot about
I'm
that.
still 29.
There you go.
So, and we were presenting research at the
annual conference, yeah.
Correct, the annual conference. So, and it was in Boston.
Right.
And we're like, oh, right, we're going to Boston. We're going to Beantown with Blue. This is going to be great. This is old stomping grounds.
Oh, yeah.
So we go to this baseball game at Fenway, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and had a Fenway Frank. Told me to have one. I was like, absolutely. And then we came out Yawkey Way,
Right.
and we're going over the bridge, the overpass.
Yeah, over the Pike, over
Yeah.
Mass Pike, yeah, back down to the square. Yeah.
Exactly. And there was this gentleman sitting on
Oh, that's right. He was on the overpass.
bridge.
Yeah. I remember this now. Oh,
and he has buckets,
yeah,
different size buckets.
paint buckets.
Paint
Yeah.
buckets, yep.
Yeah.
And he is playing the drums. And I kid you not, when I say this man walks over to him and starts banging on these drums with him, purely epic. But it gets better. It got better. We go to the subway because we're going to go to MIT.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to get over there, cross town.
Right. So was it a Charlie card or Charlie? The green card?
Charlie on the MTA. That's
Yeah.
Kingston Trio.
No. The card to get on the subway. Can't remember. I think it's got a Charlie card, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Anyway, we're walking down the steps and we just watched him rock out on these buckets. And the next thing I know, there's this guy in the subway.
Right. It was a busker. Right there on the landing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was jamming out. And I kid you not, this man yet again goes over and he goes, may I? And of course he has his guitar box open because he's
Right.
wanting donations.
Right.
And he's like, right on. And you started jamming out. You played some amazing.
I played a bunch of old Beatles, is what I did.
I loved it. I loved it. What was going, like when you walked up to that guy, what, do you remember? Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, crashing bands has been one of my hobbies. Absolutely. The only band I have not been able to crash is my old one from Maine. That's the only one.
oh, gotcha.
Oh, I'll tell you about crashing bands. Yeah, we had a great time doing that, but I love just going up to people and asking them if I can play. I was lucky enough to go to Ireland briefly last year, and I found myself, imagine this, in a pub in Dublin.
No, not
No,
you.
no.
Never.
No, it was one that we were in. Had a sign said it was the oldest pub in London. It was like from 1265 or something. That long there's been people pouring ale there. But they had a full-blown Irish band there. I mean, the accordion and the whole PA and drummers and everything. I was not going to be able to crash them. So we went across the street. This is better. Now we just have a single guitar player and his accordion player with him. Right? Okay. Now I kind of worked my way towards the back of the bar, and I walked up to the guy. I knew he was getting close to maybe 1, maybe 2 more songs for his set. I know how long it takes for people before they take breaks. I walked up to him, just like this, with my pick.
With your pick.
Just like that, during the last chorus of the song. He didn't know what the hell to think, And he finishes the song. He says, "What do you want?" And I said, "My bucket list says that I need to crash a band in Dublin. You'll do. And he goes, come on up.
You'll do. Just to let you know, you'll do here.
And I got up on stage, and I used to play with an Irish trio down in Naples for a while.
Of course you did.
And yeah, man. And so I learned a bunch of Irish songs from this one guy, Mike McNally, and played in a trio with him and a guy named John Rayfuse. And I'll tell you what, I just pulled these Irish songs out of my hat. One of them was called The Fields of Athenry, which is really only from the 70s. People think it's earlier. But nevertheless, I started playing that, and the entire room, everybody, all the way to the back, sang every word.
I love it.
It was like going to a Protestant church. I mean, everybody sang. There was no question about it. And then I played Galway Girl, which is the newer one by Stevie Earle, and everybody knew every word. It was such a treat. Boy, if I could play at places like that,
Yeah.
I would never stop.
Nice.
I'd play day and night. Everybody sang every word.
And you write your own music, right?
I do, yeah.
Did you write a song for me?
Not yet.
Not yet?
No.
Well, I was expecting my own song today.
I'm taking it in as I go.
Are you?
I'm processing.
He's like, hey, listen, right before we came in here, I really love the highlights. I was like, thank you.
Actually, I'm a better collaborator than I am a single songwriter. My songs are generally, the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald stuff, like 8 verses and a chorus in between, that kind of thing. I don't really have the knack to, pump out a pop song like Carole King did, But nevertheless, yeah, I do happen to collaborate with a couple of people. One fellow down St. Lucie, Port St. Lucie, another one up in Maine, and occasionally we can get some really good stuff done. Because I know about intros, I know about bridges, I know about endings, I know about harmonies, things like that. So working with somebody who's got a good melody and a good chord structure, then the two of us together can make a good song.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the rule for really, really, really good songwriters. There's very few that just do it completely on their own. So that's basically how I do that.
Well, you brought your guitar today.
I brought one of them.
One of them. One of how many?
One fewer than I need.
One fewer than you need. Okay. I just pictured a whole room just full of guitars.
Close.
You have a hoarding issue, don't you?
No.
Collecting issue?
I tell you a funny story. I had a heart doctor once who had his fingernails on his right hand were literally this long. And then on his left hand, they were trimmed right down. So I knew right away he was a classical guitar player, right? You always start talking guitars with him. So how many guitars do you have? I asked. He says, well, depends what song I'm playing. So what are you talking about? He says, well, there's some music that's written for specific guitars. Some symphonies are written for specific guitars. And I said, how many of them do you have? I said, oh, I've got all of them. It's just like 35 guitars. Because, if you're going to play this song, it's got to be this guitar. I'm not that bad.
You're not that bad.
No.
You have 34 guitars.
No, I'm right at the limit that all guitarists should be at, which is I only need one more.
I adore you. I can't with you, sir. Well, will you do the honors of playing
Sure.
something? Like you have something original with yours, right?
Yeah,
Like you
if
can
it's
just
in
freestyle.
tune, if it's in tune.
It's in tune.
Oh.
Serenade me, Lou.
I did a gig yesterday, and that was outdoors. Yeah. In a lake in New Hampshire, a new spirit was born. She arrived from the hillside one late summer's morn. Spirits remind us to live for today. She asks us to listen till the end of our days in Meredith Bay. That's the first verse.
I love it. That's beautiful.
I wrote that for a friend of mine's wife who passed away.
Oh.
I sang that because the chorus. Whoa, sea, now joined by the new one we call Kathy B. Like many older before her, neath her coral's brow, she swims with her lover today. From now. That's a chorus in the middle.
I love it.
Yeah, man.
I love it.
Yeah.
So for everybody who is just listening, what are you playing right now? I know it's a 12-string.
It's a 12-string, yes. Yeah. It's an Ovation, which is this is my gig guitar.
Do you gig guitar?
Yeah,
Nice.
because it's got the space age back.
Yes,
yeah,
makes
made
it
of
light.
something like you'd make a space capsule out of. So the only real wood is right there and on the neck. So it's great for playing outdoors because there's mostly outdoor gigs that I do. You know, so that helps a lot. But 12 strings, oh man, come on, man.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
I mean, there's 12 strings riffs that you cannot do on a 6-string guitar, you know.
Facts.
You know, Pink Floyd.
Can you do some? I know you can move your. I know you can.
Where are you going with this?
Where am I going? A little bit faster.
Something a little bit faster.
Yeah, I know you can. I've heard you. I heard you in Boston.
Oh, you
just
did,
killing
yeah.
it. I mean, don't play anybody's specific music, but there you go.
I've just seen a face I can't forget. Time and place where we just met. She's just the girl for me. I want all the world to see we met. Falling, yes I'm falling, and she keeps calling me back again. I think that's probably out of copyright now. That's that's
We'll
old
double
enough.
check on
That's
that one
old enough
before.
for that. Yeah.
We'll definitely
Yeah.
double
So,
check on that.
I think
before.
Michael Jackson does own the Beatles catalog, but I don't think we have to worry about that either.
All right. So for everybody who would like to hear you play more, or you know, just catch you at one of your gigs, is it an every weekend thing, or is it
It's
every
regular from about October through this month.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I head for the cooler weather.
Oh, you're heading for the mountains.
Yeah, head up north. Yes. But you know, come the fall and right through the fall and into the spring. Yeah, I got regular gigs at Loggerheads, for example, and the Two Better Days Wine Bar in Ormond Beach,
Nice.
and various other venues as well. So yeah, people can come catch
Awesome.
when I'm around. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. I like to play what people like to hear too.
Yeah.
And you know what I say when I'm doing a gig, excuse me, it's like, okay, here's the deal. I am going to play what you want to hear. You know, some people want some new country, like I want to buy a boat. You know, I get that one, and buy dirt. That's the latest. Oh, I love that one. Yeah, man, I love that song. Anyway, I'll play that. I'll play a couple of 60s and 70s. But if I don't hear anything from you, I'm going right back to my roots and play folk.
Nice.
And I do.
What is it about folk that you love?
Two things. Number one, it was kind of instrumental, if you'll grant me the pun, of getting my musical career started. And number two, it resonates even today. Even today. And it's funny, you know, the audiences down here in Florida, they're quite varied. And there's plenty of people that are a little older. And I'll start playing something like Blowing in the Wind or Circle Game or something like that. And they just melt. They melt. They love it. They're so sick of hearing everybody play the same country songs and the same rock and roll songs. I am proud to say I have never, ever played Brown Eyed Girl.
Well,
Not only that, but I'm on a bit of a quest. Every time I've gone to a venue that has somebody playing live music, I'll hang around and eventually I will hear Brown Eyed Girl. I have yet to go to a live music venue where somebody doesn't play that.
that and Sweet Caroline.
Oh, I got to play that.
You got to play
Come
that.
on,
That's
man.
a bar favorite.
A Boston favorite.
Yeah.
For crying out loud. Yeah.
And then you get, of course, Free Bird.
Excuse me.
If you have your electric guitar, people, I've heard so many people.
No, it's a funny thing. People just yell Freebird because they think that's fun to do.
Yes, they do. But when people actually play it, to hear an excellent
version of it, you can't do it with a single guitar.
You cannot.
You know?
You cannot. But when
Not
you
only do
finally
have
get a
leads and
group.
two guitar. When I get a group again, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'll be all over that like white on snow.
Yeah.
For sure. No, there's another thing about that brown-eyed girl thing. Whenever somebody asks me for that, I will play an original. If anybody asks me for Bob Dylan, Grateful Dead, or Brown Eyed Girl, I'll play an original. And I got that from Bob Dylan, who once famously said, whenever somebody asks me to play a song by Pete Seeger, I say no, and I'll play an original.
There
And that's
you go.
how he gets the original stuff out.
Well, you are definitely one of a kind, I can tell you that for
Oh,
sure.
shucks.
And I really appreciate you taking the time to come out here and to be on my show with me.
I think you're doing a great job, too. I'm happy to be here. I'm so proud of you, too.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Can you do your traditional sign off just so everybody knows how Lou McNally would sign off on air when he was on television, on radio? This is what he says. Go ahead.
And at this hour, that's the way it looks from here.
There we have it. That's going to do it for this episode of Riff On This. Be sure to stay locked in tight. We'll have another episode coming up for you. Thanks for listening to Riff On This. A huge thank you to our guest, Dr. Lou McNally, for bringing his musical talents on the show. Now for the social plugs. Of course, you can link me on social media. Just search Samara Cokinos News 6 on Facebook and Twitter, or on Instagram, search Samara Cokinos. Before we go, a huge thank you to our behind-the-scenes production team, Derek Mosier, Ryan Haley, Chris Flora, Rich Burns, and Bob Myers. Please take some time to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget, sharing is caring, so tell a friend about us too. You can find videos of all the podcast episodes on clickorlando.com/podcast. Until next time, friends.